proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Volpe Report. I'm your host, Domenic Volpe. Our special guest tonight is the county legislator representing District 4, Mike Kaplowitz. Welcome, Michael.
Domenic, pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Okay, it's 2009. The economy is in a tough state. Tell us what the county's doing for us right now. What's happening? What's the good, and maybe what's the bad, and where do we go?
Yep. We are the tail that kind of gets wagged by the state, and the state is the dog that gets walked by the federal government. And we're all waiting to see what's going to happen from the top and trickling on down. County's in very good shape. Just last week, Fitch's, which is a rating agency, just upgraded the county's rating from AA+ to AAA. So we are the only county in the state that is AAA rated, Standard & Poor's, Moody's, and Fitch's.
Now, what does that mean to the average Joe?
It saves you dollars on borrowing.
Because when you borrow, you can borrow
we have the best credit rating.
At a lower interest rate.
Think of an 800 on a credit rating. We have the best. And we are so far below what we could borrow. That is, our capacity is so great. We are very prudent each year in terms of what we do borrow. Our fiscal management's good. Our budgets are on time. They're balanced. They're surpluses every year. But the problem is, we, like all 61 counties, Republican and Democratic, are in tough state if the economy continues to go down. The main reason for that is frankly that people need more services at this time, food services, social services, housing, and the like. And our revenues are threatened through sales tax because people aren't spending as much, they don't have the money. Mortgage tax is down for obvious reason because people aren't taking out mortgages. And the state revenue and federal revenue, the money from the state and federal government is threatened because they're running huge deficits themselves.
Do you notice, I mean, I know you're the legislator from Westchester County, but do you talk to other legislators from other counties? Do you get to feel what is the unemployment rate, let's say, in Westchester County compared to
We're much better.
Washington County or Chenango County?
Well, the upstate New York, by all accounts, is a fiscal and financial disaster area. Populations are leaving.
Exceeding
counties
10,
are difficulty.
12% unemployment rates?
Certainly high single digits, if not worse in some cases. We are not, but getting worse. Our median household income has been high, but isn't rising as much. The value of homes has begun to fall for the first time this year, back to 2004 levels, I believe. So, Westchester County will be fine, but it's going to be a tough stretch. And again, I think the best analogy is to the country, which is going to pull out at some point. Maybe I'm just a super optimist or just a plain optimist. We're going to pull out at some point. The question is when, what quarter, and what damage occurs between now and then. And the damage is to confidence. The damage is to people's finances, their retirement, their money for college. That's the kind of damage that people are facing.
Does something like a Madoff, what happened there with the Ponzi scheme and things like that, does that hurt Westchester County more so because we seem to be more on the financial end because we're so located so close to New York City? Not
so much the county, because we are based. Our revenues, all county revenues, are basically a three-legged stool. A third comes in from sales tax, a third comes in from property tax, and a third comes in from federal and state aid. Where the entity gets hurt is the federal and the state, because they count an income tax. We don't have an income tax. Income tax is where if the bonuses to Wall Street are not getting paid because the financial services community is doing badly, because Madoff has undermined confidence, on and on. The comptroller just announced the other day that New York is losing $1 billion in income tax revenue, $1 billion. So when you're short 15 and $1 billion has just instantly disappeared, the argument is they're actually, I've heard 16, 17, 18 billion in the hole. And so that does affect all of us. And they're looking for some real draconian measures that are irrespective of the county, just for us as taxpayers. And stay tuned to see what happens.
Right, all right. So where do we look at this as, is this a small, if we want to call it recession? Do you get the feeling
I'm not going to judge it. I'll tell you what it is. Yeah. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to make some structural changes. Give you an example. If you're trying to revamp a hospital world or healthcare delivery, if you're trying to renegotiate union contracts and civil service, if you're trying to restructure your community for economic development.
Gotcha.
This is a time where people in crisis are willing to do things.
Right, because they wouldn't be willing to tighten a belt buckle.
Churchill always says it, when he said, we used to say it, that, the democracy is the worst form of government, it's just better than any other kind. Crisis gives us the dynamic and the necessity and frankly the political will to do something. Yeah. When would Congress
leverage that it's necessary?
When would Congress consider $850 or $830 billion of stimuli but for these kind of times? And so in that, you're going to have some opportunity. The challenge at every level of government is not to waste it. The challenge is to address the aid and the need and the focus on what's important. And our job at the county, to some extent, is to get out of the way. What we don't do is as important as what we do. We don't have a police force, for example, that, like Nassau County, runs the entire county. We have a very small police force. And what we do basically is do our county parkways, and what we do are specialty things like helicopters, because no town can afford a helicopter, Marine units, because that's very expensive for towns, bomb squads, hazmat squads, communication type coordinators and the like.
The forensics lab,
Exactly. Well, through labs and research, for example, where we have a very good labs and research for DNA, where we have environmental labs, where we have forensic labs, the medical examiners and the like.
Whereas if you took each individual city, town, village in Westchester County.
Well, I'm a taxpayer too, like you are, and I don't want to pay a single dollar more. In fact, I'd love to cut by $2, if possible. The county saves us dollars, because what the county does is allow Somers or Yorktown or Cortland or Peekskill not to have certain things. Perfect example is the health department. We have one health department. Unlike Connecticut, where every town has a health department, we don't need that. A jail. You don't need a full penitentiary and a jail in 43 towns and villages. Right. You have one, and the economies of scale to support it.
Well, all right, so then where does that go to taxes? How is our tax base?
The tax base is threatened, but the county has, and most counties have a pretty good record of this. We have, I believe, an impeccable record in Westchester. We have a 3.7% increase in county tax levy over the last 11 years. So for the last 11 years, as long as I've been in, Andy Spano's been county executive, the increase has been 3.7%. The criticism is not that the rate, that's a darn good rate, like cost of living. Right. The problem was that we unfortunately had some severe ups and some very deep downs.
Right.
The downs are great. Everybody loves when taxes go down, but everybody only remembers when taxes go up. The roller coaster is very enervating. What it does is it doesn't give confidence that the decision makers know how to budget appropriately from year to year. If you're in a business and your costs go up 15 one year and down 5 the next,
it drives you nuts.
What's going on here? You guys don't know what you're doing.
Right.
So what we've been able to do for the last 4 or 5 years, and I'll take a little measure of credit as former budget chair and now vice chair for the 5 years, where we've been able to steady that growth and increase, and it's been in the 3% range. This past year, because times are so tough, and we recognize that jobs are threatened, people's homes are threatened, the values of homes and the like, foreclosure, we brought it in at 1.77% tax increase. Look to Rockland double digits, look to Putnam nearly double digits, look to what everybody's been doing, and 1.77 by all accounts is a good number. The reason we didn't go even a little deeper was because what we feared has come to pass.
Sure, because you don't know what
the state's going to do, and you don't know what the state's going to do. And the state has already said through the proposed budget that we, the county alone, are looking at a deficit of $15.5 million or a 3% structural tax increase if the governor gets his way. Now, the legislature still has to vote, and there are a lot of changes that are going to occur, but that's a huge piece out of our hide. Now, look to the towns, the cities. You work in Peekskill, you live in Cortland, whether in northern Westchester or throughout the entire region. Cities, villages, and towns are equally threatened because they rely on mortgage tax, and mortgage activity is down significantly.
Sure.
People are not
the
refinancing.
The housing sector is dead.
Equity's down, so people are not. Sales tax is down, they share in that, and so they have to rely on the same thing the counties do, ultimately, which is property tax. Yorktown did a pretty good job, did an excellent job of bringing a very low increase. Some of the towns have done a better job than others.
Would you say unfunded mandates from the state, it being that times now are getting bad as far as at the state level, do you see them throwing additional?
Sure, but here's what they do. Social services is the big thing that the county does. The county, out of its $1.7 billion budget, almost $600 million of that is welfare, is social services. Aid to families, safety net, housing, and the like. The mandate hasn't changed. We still have that requirement.